amount to something that really slows down goods coming to Uganda, and then that the scarcity, the moment the scarcity comes in, people start feeling that they are uncertain. My cargo may not come in time. You might start seeing some changes in prices.
Other private sector players are not different.
Somebody's put our things, they didn't pay us since 2008. We are demanding them a lot of money.
Our wish is that that disruption is minimized so that trade flows. I think there can be an appeal to the leaders to find ways and means of dialoguing so that we minimize the disruption in trade and by extension, disruption in financial flows.
Past skirmishes in Kenya have had dire consequences to landlocked countries like Uganda that overly relies on the Northern Corridor.
I believe for the individual business people, it is important for you to diversify and see what component of your cargo goes to the southern route, which is the route that goes through Dar es Salaam. We are aware today that the Dar es Salaam route, the government of Tanzania and the Tanzania Postal Authority is trying to improve this particular route. And you remember when President Suluhu came here, it was us as a private sector that requested that she helps this country and improve the way the port operates. And indeed, they have done some of their part of the bargain. For instance, they have now opened an office of Tanzania Postal Authority here in Uganda. So for Ugandan traders, Ugandan manufacturers and business people, let's start to diversify the routes. Let's make sure that some of our goods come through Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania routes is for us. We have much stronger historical relations with Tanzania. I don't have time to take you history. The people who fought against colonialism like Kabalega, they were using caravans of the Nyamwezis bringing in weapons. So in my opinion, routes should all be open. See, as a businessman, there is no such a thing as this one is better, this one is... No. I need options in order for me to cost my raw material imports and my final product exports. So Tanzania gives us the multi-model, the sea, the railway, and the lake. So your Port Bell, Bukasa hasn't started, but Port Bell, and the vessels that are there, MV Kawa or Umoja, should now be a little focused on afresh, just so that we have more capacity available on the lake. URC now makes more sense with Tanzania Railways Corporation, but that's in no way at all. And so the multimodal, so you have that and then you have Mutukula. Mutukula gives us Masaka and then the western part of Uganda.
The business community, therefore, must reduce their risks by utilizing other trade routes in the region. Tanzania's Central Corridor is the most viable. It is often argued that when Kenya, the East African community's biggest economy, coughs, the rest of the member states catch a cold. The bi-weekly protests in Nairobi, Kenya, have literally put Uganda on the edge. Charlotte Amuge for the Business Roundup.
Harmonization of standards, mindset change, and improvement of quality of products are cited among important factors vital in growing intra-African trade. This was observed at a high-level continental standards meeting in Kampala. The African Regional Standards Organization is an arm of the African Union formed to champion the dream of African Continental Free Trade Area, whose goal is to enhance continental trade. African countries trade more with foreign countries than among themselves, with recent statistics showing that trade among African countries is barely less than 15%.
I would call it mindset. Mindset because it's about consumers. We consume what we don't produce and we produce what we don't consume. If I cut it short, we should produce for the African market. We don't lack the numbers. We are 1.3 billion of people and we are still actually increasing.
This situation is attributed to many barriers, among them quality of products, protectionism, differing standards and mindset.
Those who have gone to China to set up plants have gone there because they want cheap labor. There's a big market and nobody Nobody, let's not be under any impression that anybody is going to come from anywhere and help us. Pass good standards, which you have always been doing. Make those standards known to the people, because the institution that I had, every time I ask people whether they know what UNBS does, all they know is that we confiscate goods. So they think we are like another police organization.
As you know now, standard is a key component for accessing these markets. We have negotiated markets to waive the taxes, to also waive the quantities or restrictions on volume, so they are quota-free, tariff-free, but what cannot be waived off is standard. So we are saying that, acknowledging that standard now remains the one single constraint, we now need to make sure that we encourage and support our traders and exporters, manufacturers, and those involved in value addition to appreciate the role of standard in business growth, but specifically to promote international trade.
The focus of the African Regional Standards Organization meeting is to bridge existing gaps through harmonization of standards.
Currently have over 1,200 African standards. This is the indigenous African standards across all sectors to be able to make sure that we promote trade among ourselves. So we are trying to make sure that we popularize these standards and engage with the African countries. Since we are all experts here now, we need to go into mutual recognition agreements so that whatever country certifies a product that is safe and good for Africa, we should be allowed to freely trade. There is no reason why we should seek permission to trade among ourselves.
The experts need to ensure all standards required for African products are harmonized across the region. Denis Sigoa for UBC Business. The National Social Security Fund has issued an ultimatum of 30 days to all employers across the country to register with the fund and remit social contributions for their employees. The appeal is geared at strengthening compliance within the law and increasing the number of savers. Let's have a look.
The employer registration drive is in line with the new NSSF Act provisions that introduce mandatory contributions by all workers, regardless of the enterprise or number of employees.
We exist when employers exist, so we go to great lengths to make sure that the employer actually survives. Once in a while you run into an employer who has actually deducted money from the employee's check and they stubbornly not send the money. In that case, you really have to go hard on that employer, because in a sense they stole from the employee, and you don't tolerate that, because you as a young man or a young woman, 55 is going to come very soon and you need that money.
Unlike the past when the definition of employer was ambiguous, the amended Act provides clarity on who is eligible to pay NSSF for their employees.
We've also been able to collect 15 billion shillings from newly registered members. So people that were not members of the fund last financial year, within just this financial year so far, have been able to contribute 15 billion. So again, that goes to show you that if we target to register more members and to bring on board more companies, there is also a lot of money that we can be able to collect.
NSSF has partnered with public and private stakeholders to ensure that employers regularize their status so as to avoid financial penalties.
The penalty is 10% per month on the outstanding amount that should have been contributed. For example, if you got 2 employees, they each earn 500,000 shillings. Basically, that means that each month they need to be contributing 25,000 shillings of their own money and 50,000 shillings that you match. So they need to contribute 75,000 shillings. And you don't. That first month, the penalty is 10% of 75,000.
We want to ask you to intensify the education. Let's educate our MSMEs. MSMEs do not appreciate the value of social security. Every small money matters to them. So they need to appreciate why it's important to comply.
Since the introduction of the mandatory contributions by all workers, regardless of the size of the enterprise, over 3,200 employers with less than 5 employees have registered with the fund. Charlotte Amuge and Denis Sigoa for UBC News.
Small and medium enterprises in Uganda have been struggling to access the Small Business Recovery Fund put together by government and the commercial banks to help them recover from the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Bank of Uganda, as of September 30th, only 8 participating financial institutions had disbursed loans amounting to 4.8 billion shillings.
The Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises has been advocating for greater participation from financial institutions and a more streamlined process for accessing the fund.
Only 7 billion shillings has been disbursed out of the 200 billion. And the challenges, I would say, are mainly due to the limited awareness by the MSMEs, the unclear requirements when applying, but also the hesitance by financial institutions to lend at an interest rate of 10%.
The participating financial institutions are Opportunity Bank, Pride Microfinance, Trust Bank, Post Bank, Housing Finance Bank, Diamond Trust Bank, Centenary Bank, DFCU Bank and Equity Bank. While these numbers suggest that some progress has been made in disbursing the loans to SMEs, it is still a relatively small amount compared to the 200 billion Ugandan shillings in the Small Business Recovery Fund.
If they are planning for the people, I think we should be consulted first, either they get to know what we need so that they budget for us well.
They argue that the limited participation from financial institutions is hindering the effectiveness of the fund in supporting small businesses.
I think engaging them will be for another day, but for now we want to work with those that we believe have bought into the Small Business Recovery Fund and are willing to disburse. Of course, they have genuine concerns. They are saying, now you're asking us to give money at an interest rate of 10%, yet our own money is being given out in that 20s or whatever. So this may affect the competitiveness of our own products.
In response, Bank of Uganda and the FSMEs are working together to increase awareness of the fund and to encourage more financial institutions to participate. The upcoming awareness events at Umasho Grounds in Kampala, Soroti, Mbarara and Arua are part of these efforts.
It can be like 5 million. 5 million can be enough to start this business because most of the people here in Kampala, like if you have a very small stock, they won't buy from you. I only need some hard cash, nothing else.
The effort of government and the central bank, along with the federation, to increase participation and streamline the application process are critical to ensuring that small business owners can access the support they need to recover from the pandemic. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News in Kampala.
Government is focused on broadening its relationship with the private sector in order to digitally transform the economy. This was observed at the Huawei ICT Convention in Kampala.
Uganda needs to benchmark from countries rich in technology to achieve the 2040 goal on digital transformation. The ICT Minister Chris Baryomonse says enough resources should be allocated to ICT in training and research.
Move faster as Uganda, as African countries, but that requires us to allocate more resources into the area of ICT because research is going on and many technologies are being brought on board. We may not have to reinvent the wheel to come up with these technologies. We just need to draw lessons from those countries which already have those technologies and see how to adapt them and how to integrate them within our system.
Government is yet to acquire a loan from the Exim Bank to facilitate connection of all districts on digital platforms and ease communication across public agencies.
Government is transitioning from manual processes to electronic and digital services.
The Ministry of ICT's partnership with Huawei will boost digital transformation.
Campus network solutions. Campus network is the LAN network, networks in offices, in schools, in industries and all that, to show them what is the latest in the industry and to show them that it's not very hard to get there. Now in the Enterprise Business Group, we provide end-to-end solutions for the different issues that customers have. That is why we are trying to diversify as much as possible. Why? So that at the end of the day, when a customer comes to us, we give them an end-to-end solution.
As technology grows, cybersecurity becomes a concern where everyone must be protected. The Executive Director Nita Yu says plans are underway to strengthen cybersecurity across the spectrum.
To form a committee of cybersecurity experts, cross-cutting all sectors of the economy. So cybersecurity is not just in information technology. We are now going into petroleum and gas. We have transport. Someone can hack your transport system. You may think transport is not prone to cyber attack, but it can be.
Joshua Kagoro, Miria Nwomujisha, UBC News.
Government agencies are urged to clearly define the roles of the board and management. According to Ambassador Francis Butagira, the Chairman Board of Directors, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, micromanagement of the board members affects an entity's operations. Let's have a look. Clearly defined roles for the Board of Directors and management is key in strengthening the operations of government agencies.
Most of the agencies have failed because the board wants to ascend in the arena and manage, and that has brought conflicts. For me, I've said no. Let's define our roles. In that way, we can perform our supervisory roles. So once we have done that, then we have left the management to do what they are supposed to do. And that's why we have achieved remarkable results.
Alongside management, the board of Uganda Registration Services Bureau, led by Ambassador Francis Butagira, has focused on making Uganda the best investment destination. The Bureau has also intensified its efforts towards formalization of businesses. The one-stop center in the heart of Kampala City has been a major milestone in their operations.
Before, an investor would run from one place to another. He will come to RSB to register a company. Then he was sent to KCC for instance, for license. Then you are sent to Uganda Revenue Authority to pay money. What we have done is to put in place what we call one-stop center. In this center, all the players are there. If you want to pay, you go and register. You get a license, KCC is there. If it is a land transaction, land people are there, and then you go to the bank. It's in the same place.
Annually, the Bureau is given a non-tax revenue target by government. In the current financial year, the agency has a Uganda shillings 70 billion target.
We have done 57 before the end of the year. I can assure you we are going even to hit 100 because of our improved processes. So that indicates, shows you how it's an indication of our performance that we are able to collect this money.
Although the entity has recorded significant successes in various fronts, there is belief that much more can be attained through creating more visibility.
We have to communicate to the public the services we offer. If we are telling them to register a company, for instance, if we are telling them to register a trademark or a patent or a geographical indication and all of these things, then they need to know what advantages am I going to get by just moving from informal to formal. Others fear that if you formalize the business, the taxman will be on you. But we are saying no, there are other advantages.
The role of the board of directors of any organization is to supervise and direct management on policy matters. Denis Sigoa for the Business Roundup.
During the 20-year concession, the Uganda's electricity generation capacity has increased from approximately 380 to 1,378, with the number of generating plants growing from 3 fully government-owned to now above 50 plants, the majority owned by private players.
The independent engineer is of the opinion that if the complex continues to be operated and maintained using prudent duty practices and equipment manufacturers' recommendation, and if all required renewal and replacements are made on a timely basis over the coming years, the remaining useful life of the complex may be extended that at least Nanubare can run for the next 30 years and KPS can run for the next 50 years.
Embracing eco-friendly energy solutions for homes, schools and farms is vital in curbing climate change and improving livelihoods. Check it out in our Sounds of Business.
We are showcasing a product. It's a biomass energy stove. It's smokeless, like you're saying, there is no smoke. You can cook them from inside your house. Even our mothers who are sick, they are free to cook because there is no that dangerous smoke, which may limit their lifespan. The stove, you can cook, you can light your kitchen. The bulb is here. You put the bulb here and get light. So you find that you're not spending any money on taking your phone to the centers to charge. They charge you 500, that 500 you can save it. You can see how it is charging. You can use maize cobs to cook, you can use dry cow dung, you can use firewood, you can use anything that is dry. That is why we are calling it a biomass cook stove. It comes with a but the price is the same. It is 550, both cash and loan. So for the loan purchase, you start with your 70,000, and that price is working within Fort Portal. But outside Fort Portal, the initial deposit is 110,000. But within Fort Portal, it is 70. So the balance is paid in a period of 1 year. That is if you started with an initial deposit of 70,000.
Poor management of electricity contributes to power shortages and leads to high electricity bills for consumers. We'll be sharing with you some of the energy-saving tips in our episodes. We start with lighting.
Upgrade your light bulbs to LEDs to save energy. Switch off lights when not in use. Paint walls with bright colors. Switch off security lights when day breaks. Use natural lighting as an alternative way to lighting rooms. And last but not least, turn on heat source after preparing the items to cook.
The heavy rains are pounding most regions of our country. Let's not let it flow to the rivers or streams. We can harvest it for home use and utilize it for agriculture, and by so doing enhance food security and curb inflation. Thank you for being part of the show. I've been your host, Denis Sigoa. Let's catch up next week.
Talk with freedom.
Get MTN Freedom Voice bundles that don't expire. Dial star 100 star 21 hash or my MTN app for more bundles. Together, we're unstoppable.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Are you tired of high fees and slow transfer time when sending money? Look no further. Airtel Money is here to revolutionize the way you move your money. We have revised our rates, and now sending money from Airtel to other networks in Uganda, East Africa, and to the rest of the world has never been more affordable. Plus, you can trust Airtel Money to get your money where it needs to go quickly and safely. Simply dial star 185 hash and start sending money. Switch to Airtel Money today and experience unbeatable rates and top-notch services for all your local and international money transfer needs. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
President Yoweri Museveni on the 11th of March 2023 arrived in the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria for a 3-day state visit at the invitation of his counterpart, His Excellency Abdelmadjid Tebboune. The Ugandan president was received at Houari Boumediene International Airport by his host, His Excellency Abdelmadjid Tebboune. President Museveni was later treated to a red carpet reception inspected by a guard of honor mounted by the Algerian Land, Air and Navy forces, and also received a 21-gun salute. Among the high-level government officials receiving the president were the president of Algerian parliament, Salah Boujil, the president of the first room in parliament, Buhari Ibrahim, the Algerian prime minister, Ayman Ben Abdelrahman, and the army chief of staff, Said Jengria. On the Ugandan side were ministers Francis Mwebesa, Trade, Industries and Cooperatives, Harriet Ntabazi, State for Trade, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, Higher Education, Ruth Nankabira, Energy and Mineral Development, John Mulimba, State for Foreign Affairs, and Frank Mwebazi, Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries. On his second day in Algeria, President Museveni was received at the presidential palace in Algiers and held bilateral talks with his counterpart, His Excellency Abdelmajid Tebboune. President Museveni expressed the need to fast-track economic integration in order to facilitate modern prosperity of the African people. He noted that modern prosperity is based on the production and sale of goods and services, a reason as to why since 1980, through the Lagos Plan of Action, the African leaders realized the issue of economic integration. The president said this should be followed by infrastructural development and commended Algeria for having moved ahead on that front by building communication linkages through the Sahara to West Africa. He, however, underscored the need to boost Africa's purchasing power with an expected population of 20 billion people by 2050, up from the current 1.5 billion people. President Museveni was happy to learn that, like Uganda, Algeria's imports have significantly reduced from $62 million to $32 million.
The common market of Africa, which is now 1.5 billion people. However, by 2050, the population of Africa will be 2.5 billion. It will be the biggest population in the world. If their purchasing power goes up, of course the purchasing power is still low because Africa although the population is 1.4 billion, but the total GDP of Africa is now 3.5 trillion, which is still small, smaller than Japan. Japan, one country, has got a GDP which is bigger than the whole of the African continent. But this is temporary. This is because people are still not aware of what to do. Our experience in Uganda is that these African populations who still live in the old ways, in the old pre-capitalist ways of producing only what you eat. You produce what you consume and you don't bother with the market. Once you work them up, the production will go up, and we shall definitely overtake those countries, Japan, even the USA, we shall overtake them. It's just a question of waking up our people. So therefore, in the meantime, apart from the continental efforts, the CFTA, which is moving, although slowly, we have the bilateral which we discussed. You had Your Excellency telling you about a delegation which is going to Uganda to look at the opportunities, and we are going to look at areas of the milk. I think the milk is already being traded, the powder milk. I was amused recently when there was a war in Europe, and then people in Africa were saying Africans are going to starve because there is a war in Europe, in Ukraine. I didn't believe that myself, because in Uganda we have got a lot of food. Uganda is not part of that group which will starve because there is a war in Europe. The war is not in Uganda, the war is in Europe. It's not. Yes, there may be a shortage of wheat, but we have got alternatives to wheat. We have got very good cereals, millet, cassava, bananas. These are sources of starch